Okay. I had a question in here. I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. It's one of my go-to statements. I guess I have a little bit of a marketing background from university. I usually been more in the operational side of things, but I'm always in tune with who speaks for what. And I think one of the biggest challenges, I think one of the biggest risks for AI is some of its spokespeople, right? And I don't, you don't have to say anything about these people. I'll say it, and you can say, "Oh, I didn't say it." I often say there's kind of, we used to watch Bond movies, and we used to love. They were exciting, there were lots of actions and stuff, but the plots were always ridiculous. I mean, the plot was ridiculous because you had some rich guy who was ridiculously narcissistic and pompous, and he would basically, threaten the world population. He said, well, how ridiculous is that? And now we're in a day and age where that seems to have become a little bit closer. We really have some kind of Bond villainesque type people out there who are not really doing AI a service. And I think that's one of the biggest risks we have from AI. And I think another one of the biggest risks of AI right now is that there's a huge pushback. And I think rightly slow. I think the pushback won't eliminate AI. I think it's going to slow it down. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos of the graduations this year. You had to do was say, start with the word A, and everybody was like booing already or walking out, which I think, by the way, power to the people. I'm with them. I don't think they're really against AI. I think they're against some of the spokespeople. And I was watching recently one of these individuals, Alex Karp. I'm sure you've caught it as well. He was recently in an interview where I was like, who's he speaking for? Is he speaking for himself? Is he speaking for his company? Is he speaking for the client? He was all over the place, as he usually is. And he was kind of talking about, and I forget the word he used because it was a bingo word that I wasn't familiar. But I guess he was talking about the ownership, the IP of data. And I think also with SaaS models, this is a big issue, right? That we're coming into a day and age where companies are trying to create this reoccurring revenue model, and I think AI is kind of buying into this model where somewhere along the line somebody's going to have to pay for it, right? And we're not paying full price right now. And Alex Karp was kind of talking about SLMs and LLMs and all this kind of stuff. I as a DAO, and I'm going to say this really as a DAO, I like to participate in the conversation, but I'm always weary of the fact that I'm really not deeply knowledgeable, technically knowledgeable about this. So I'm strategically, I think, open and aware of things, and I ask some of the good, stupid questions. And one of my big, stupid questions has always been, and this also goes back to the day and age of cloud. When cloud came along, everybody said, we're buying in the cloud. And my first stupid question is, but how are you securing your data if it's on the cloud, right? And everybody said, shut up, don't ask stupid questions, just go with it, right? We'll find a solution. We have the same issue with AI, especially with the LLMs, that they're selling themselves as the foundational basis on which other layers can build. And my stupid question has been several times, and nobody's ever been able to agree with me or say that I was thinking in the right direction. Maybe I'm not. I would think, and I'm not going to name any names, but there's some 3-letter, 4-letter, 5-letter companies out there who really push a lot of data, who could massively benefit from AI, from bots, right? But they have a huge exposure because they're using external systems which legally have found to not be able to allow you to protect your IP, right? Where do you think that AI, this is kind of, if you were to look a little bit into the future, what has to change for some of these risks to be mitigated, or do we just have to slow down? What do companies have to do from a strategic perspective to say, listen, I have one company, man, I'm not allowed to say their name, but it's burning in my forehead because their CEOs have committed to AI, and I think they have like 402 AI apps in their system that they're offering the external clients. But internally, it's still the Wild West. I think a lot of their employees, what are we allowed to use? And am I allowed to vibe code? And some of them vibe code, and then they even report back to management, said, listen, I vibe coded, but I think we shouldn't do this specifically anymore because it's accessing information that it shouldn't access and stuff like that. What's your take on that overall IP issue and security issue with AI?
Yeah, I mean, again, that was a really long-winded question, so I'll break it down.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible at that.